Let's talk about the borders now, because there are, Annastacia Palaszczuk, I've got to show you this grab. She had a press conference on Saturday where we're coming towards the end of the month. And she said towards the end of the month that, well, yes, guess what was going to happen? They'd make a decision about when the borders were going to open. Now, the best hope for people in Queensland, even though it should be July 1, is going to be after the school holidays, so another 2 weeks. But even now, it's still a maybe. And there was this nonsense at her press conference where she said to the reporter who, God forbid, asked her, when are you going to open the borders to get the tourism economy going? She said, well, is it the end of the month yet? No. When's the end of the month? Well, it's June 30. When's that? Tuesday. So we'll get back to you on Tuesday? Remember, all of these premiers who are keeping their borders up are not doing it for the health reasons, they're doing it for the economic, political reasons. Remember, Western Australia, an unemployment rate of 8.1% compared to the national rate of 7%. They want to keep the borders up for as long as possible to push it to July, because then unemployment's the Prime Minister's problem, even though their decisions to close the border cost 5,000 jobs a week. Two federal MPs who aren't going to take this lying down are people who are fighting for South East Queensland, particularly the ones that are really being screwed over, well, from the locals to the tourism industries. Karen Andrews, Stuart Robert, both of them join us now. We'll start with you first, Karen. Karen, the Premier, flat out arrogant on the weekend to say, no, when's the end of the month? And the end of the month, it's Tuesday, not now. People want certainty. There are 5 people in hospital in Victoria. There is no justification for Queenslanders not knowing when they can open up their tourism or restaurant businesses.
Absolutely. So we know that the industries right across Australia, particularly here on the Gold Coast, that have been devastated are tourism, hospitality and retail. And for us here on the Gold Coast, we rely very heavily on the influx of tourists that come through during the mid-year school holidays. Now, we've missed that. And to get such a terrible response from the Premier, that she won't even make it clear when there's going to be a real announcement about the border opening. She's not giving the local businesses any opportunity to start prepare for a reopening is just unacceptable, and quite frankly, it's unforgivable. So there are opportunities to reopen the border. She can put in place a risk management strategy. She can look at how she can start to bring people into Queensland and relieve some of the pressure on these businesses that have been devastated.
Well, it's this thing, Stuart, too. I mean, in your area, South East Queensland, right, there's about 14 different MPs and a candidate as well, state and federal, who've said, look, OK, we get it, we're all in this together, but that also means we have to let the people who've gone all in with their businesses, who missed Easter, who are going to miss these school holidays, who are going to miss Mother's Day, they've got to be able to have a shot to hold on here.
Paul, every state and federal MP on the Gold Coast did a joint statement saying to the Premier, pull your wall down. And we did it because we know that every month there's $9.5 billion lost and 850,000 jobs lost across the nation if borders stay open. By all means, as Minister Andrews said, have a risk mitigation strategy. Open the borders but exclude 5 suburbs in Victoria. But be open and be transparent with the Australian people. Right now, no Queensland business can plan, no tourism operator can plan. We know that something like 80% of all tourism dollars are spent in our state because of outside money coming through, and none of them can plan, none of them can employ, and it is just unacceptable by this Premier not to be transparent.
Do you believe, Minister, both of you are ministers, but Minister Roberts, do you believe that the Queensland government is trying to delay it for as long as possible so the unemployment question and the economic question shifts from one that she would have to be responsible for at a state election by being able to hide behind federal responsibility because of JobKeeper and ending dates in and around that?
I just think the Premier can't make a decision, Paul. It's quite simple. Every other state Premier is actually making a decision whether we agree with them or not, but this Premier actually can't. She can't make a decision. She won't say yes or no. She'll say, come back next Tuesday, or I'll let you know by the 10th of July, or we'll have a look at the end of the month. Leadership is not about being unsure. It's about making decisions. Now, we all get decisions wrong. There's no question about that. And if we get it wrong, we make a better decision. But at least we're up front and people can plan. And this is what the Premier has to do. And frankly, Paul, if Premier Palaszczuk is not able to make a decision, stand aside for someone in your party who can, because Queenslanders can't wait while the Premier finds herself to try and work out what to do.
Minister Andrews, what is an example of a business that you know on the coast or in wider Queensland that's not going to be able to wait till August?
Mm-hmm. Well, many of our tourism providers, so the accommodation providers here on the coast and in other tourist destinations around Australia, they're actually not getting the number of people coming in that they have and relied on in the past. So unless we get borders open, unless we get people moving around Australia, the accommodation providers will be one of the many businesses that will suffer, and they can't wait until August. I mean, it's been devastating for them not to have had the flow of tourists through during the mid-year school holidays. August is going to be too late, sadly, for many of them, and the indecision is certainly not helping.